Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you here at the Hydrogen and Fuel Cells Europe at the Hannover Fair of 2023. It is nice to see a big audience. In case you haven't yet, take a seat, grab a drink, and enjoy our next interview. My name is Mareike Schmalz, and I'm happy to announce our next speaker. We're going to talk about the topic of advancements in the efficiency of fuel cells and electrolyzer technology. And my guest will be Ben Nyland. He is President and CEO of Loop Energy. Give him a warm welcome, please.
Thanks.
So I hope you're having a great day here.
I am. It's great. So many people. It's awesome.
Yeah, and even more over the internet, watching us live or later on in time. So Loop Energy is a leading designer and manufacturer for fuel cell systems, particularly in the field of commercial mobility.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Particularly this sector is interesting, I think.
Yeah, so we build fuel cell modules or fuel cell engines for commercial vehicles primarily. So that would be light and medium duty trucks, the sort of trucks you see delivering packages around urban centers, municipal buses, and heavy-duty vehicles as well that travel longer distances. And so we've chosen that segment because it's a segment that emits a lot of carbon. And so there's an opportunity there to really make a big difference. And also because we feel that fuel cells deliver a commercially viable solution to replace diesel, which is, of course, really important, not just to get rid of the emissions, but to deliver something that can be adopted economically.
So it is an essential part of the whole path to climate neutrality?
We absolutely believe so, yes.
I believe so too.
Yeah.
But there is always this ongoing discussion whether the fuel cell is the right solution, whether a battery electric vehicle is the solution. I wonder, is it an either or how do you think the whole puzzle could be solved?
We actually see it as a both and. So we hear this more and more these days. We need all of the solutions to come together to solve the problems we're facing, and that's true. But it's more than that, actually. When you look at the commercial vehicle market or the vehicle market in general, for years, there have been two different types of fuels servicing that market. Some vehicles run on diesel, and others run on gasoline or petrol. And nobody ever asked the question, what's going to win, gasoline or diesel? Because at the end of the day, they have different value propositions, and the operator chooses the solution. And fuel cells and batteries are very similar in that fuel cells deliver energy in a very light package, a quickly refillable package. And so if you have a vehicle where you're concerned about cargo capacity, how much does the vehicle weigh, how far does it need to go, and how quickly can you refuel it, in those scenarios, it's fuel cells that typically provide a better value proposition. So we expect both to be solution providers.
Yeah, I really like that answer. I really like the comparison to the, let's call it older technology, because we clearly see there is not one solution that fits all.
Right.
So our interview today is titled Advancement in the Efficiency of Fuel Cells and Electrolyzer Technology. Why is efficiency so crucial, and what role do you play?
So, as you can imagine, efficiency is a word that's heard all over. Even in gasoline and diesel vehicles, improving the efficiency has been very important for years and years. And it may be because there are emissions. Of course, in our vehicles, there aren't any emissions, but you're still consuming fuel. And so that fuel contributes to the cost of operating the vehicle, and how efficient you are with the fuel impacts how far that vehicle can run between fuelings. And so when we look at these new energy vehicles that are using fuel cells, we want to extend the efficiency of the vehicle so that you spend less money on hydrogen, the fuel, which is today fairly expensive. And we also want to extend the efficiency so the vehicles can travel farther. But what we're now finding also with our customers is by improving that efficiency, they can reduce one of the big cost contributors to the vehicle itself, which is tanks. Because of the nature of hydrogen, a lot of commercial vehicles need 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 or 5 hydrogen tanks. If you can improve the overall efficiency of the vehicle and remove 1 or 2 of those tanks, you reduce the cost, you improve the package, all sorts of benefits. And so that's why efficiency is so critically important in this space. And we produce what we believe is the most efficient fuel cell system on the market today. It's because of a core technology that we have that's called Eflow. It manages the flow of the gases and the removal of the waste byproducts more efficiently. And as a result, we get much more fuel efficiency out of our systems.
I'd like to dig a bit deeper, particularly at the Eflow technology. You already told us a little bit about it. Can you go more into depth? What is so unique about your product?
Sure. So a fuel cell system is composed of 100, 200, 300 unit cells. And each cell manages the flow of hydrogen and oxygen to produce electricity and water as a byproduct. And as those gases and the water flow through the cells, they interact with each other in ways that reduce the efficiency of the reaction. So what we've done is we've changed the physical dimensions of the channels in that fuel cell, unit cell, to manage the flow of those gases more efficiently. It creates more turbulence, and as a result, it's a much more efficient overall operation. And so it's quite simple. It's a mechanical design innovation, but it actually allows lots of benefit to be unlocked. And as materials continue to improve, membrane materials and other materials within the fuel cell system, we believe that Eflow will continue to add benefit as those happen. So it's kind of a future-proof innovation for us, which is fantastic.
I hope so too, because that would bring us further on our way to climate neutrality. Actually, I want to invite the audience as well. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and I will bring the microphone directly to you so you can participate in the discussion. But for now, I have another question. Your company is operating internationally. So
Yes.
you have facilities in China, in Europe, North America, where you face very different market conditions.
Yes.
So could you talk a little bit about those different challenges that you see in the various markets?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are in all those markets and even more. And so we're seeing this global marketplace change in significant ways, but there are a lot of commonalities as well. Here in Europe, the government is really getting behind initiatives to promote the use of hydrogen, to incent the production of hydrogen. And as a result, in 2022, we saw a substantial acceleration in the development of customers, in the motivation of customers, and in the number of units and repeat orders that we were seeing, which was absolutely fantastic. It all started with the government deciding that this was a critical place to work. As a result, I would say that the fastest growing part of our business is right here in Europe. And so we have presence, as you said, throughout the continent, also in the UK, and we're delighted to see all the customers developing and growing. We also have business in China. China was growing extraordinarily well right before COVID. COVID had a big impact on the market in China, but now we're starting to see it come back. But we also see small pockets of really intense activity happening. South Korea is one of those markets. Australia is another one of those markets where we're seeing a lot of fuel cell activity for a variety of different reasons. So we try to keep our finger on the pulse everywhere. And where I'm from, we're headquartered in Vancouver, in Canada. I'm hoping to see more activity in the States than we've seen historically, but we're starting to see a bigger push there as well.
Is there a necessity for you to change your product to adapt to different markets, or is it one solution fits it all?
Today, the volumes are fairly low, and so one solution really meets the requirements of the whole market. Well, I should say one. We've got multiple products, but we find a single solution can be deployed in the sorts of volumes we're talking about. When the market starts to scale, we would expect the market to start to customize as the volumes warrant it. But today, we've got a solution set that seems to work for everybody we're working with.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I really like the way you talked about the developments that you see in Europe, because over the last years and decades, there have been a lot of ups and downs for the hydrogen technology, fuel cell technology. We were at the point that we thought there might be a breakthrough a couple of times, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the people in the audience can relate.
Yeah.
How do you see the situation today? Would you say now we're definitely there?
Well, so from my perspective, we're not going back. So we are definitely moving forward. I would say that in 2022, we were extremely optimistic that things were really starting to push forward. We saw a lot of activity in the private sector as well as the public sector. So public sector being municipal buses, like municipal vehicles like buses or garbage trucks. We also started to see a lot of activity in fleet trucks in 2022. What's happened in the last few months with the economic shift is we've seen that private sector interest get put on hold. It's not going away, but it's definitely getting pushed out. What's encouraging to me is in the public sector, the municipal fleets, we're still seeing requests for bids, we're still seeing activity there. And so I think that momentum is going to carry through, and then the private sector will come back along, I'm guessing maybe 2024, but we'll have to see. So I'm excited. I think this is permanent. This isn't one of those big swings where we're going to disappear into almost nothing, but I do think the current economic conditions have slowed the momentum that we started to see in 2022.
Yeah, I really hope so too, that we are facing into a bright future with hydrogen.
Yep.
I see there is a question from the audience. Let me get over there.
Alles klar. Yeah, thank you for the nice talks and the insights. You were talking about hydrogen in the vehicle sector, and what I've seen is there are different techniques to store hydrogen in a tank, like compressed hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, and there is also compressed hydrogen. Do you know, or do you have any idea what kind of technology is the most promising, or is there any specific use for any specific kind of technology?
So it's a great question, and my answer to that is it really depends on the application. So when we look at these different applications, what we see in vehicles today is almost entirely compressed hydrogen. 350 bar, 700 bar, depending on the application. In our space, commercial vehicles, it tends to be 350 bar. It's easier to find stations to fill at that level, and it works well. Again, the more efficient we can make the systems, the less hydrogen you need to keep on board, and you can do those sorts of things. Liquid we find typically in big containers, stationary locations. There is technology to put it on vehicles, but then using it in the vehicles can be a little bit challenging. I personally feel that the use of liquid hydrogen on board vehicles would really unlock a lot of great long-haul applications. Not so great in the city because of boil-off, but the quick answer is that there's lots of different applications, and I think all of them are going to be required depending on the application.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So there's one topic that I want to tackle as well, and that is the topic of cost. So total cost of ownership is a big issue, particular in the commercial vehicle market.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so total cost of ownership is the metric that fleet operators use to measure the economics of their vehicles. And it's what's called the capital cost, which is what does it cost them to buy the vehicle up front, and the operating cost, which is what does it cost to operate it during the lifetime of the vehicle. And in new energy vehicles, battery vehicles and fuel cell vehicles, the capital cost is significantly higher than an internal combustion vehicle. But the operating cost tends to be quite a bit less. And so the objective, first of all, is to get to the point where we have the same total cost of ownership as an internal combustion vehicle to really unlock the adoption cycle. And so as you can imagine, fuel efficiency is one of the biggest contributors to that. Fuel costs in a commercial vehicle are usually the #1 cost. So if you can reduce that, that's great. And actually our latest product that we launched in September, right here in a different hall, we believe actually achieved fuel cost parity with diesel engines, today's diesel engines. And so that was a really good, big first step to get to cost parity with diesel. Very important.
Yeah, that brings us back to the title of our session, which was efficiency of fuel cells, but also in the electrolyzer technology.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us what you do in that area.
Sure. Yeah, so electrolyzers is new for us. We've been a fuel cell company for 20 years. Our first commercial products were launched 3 years ago, so we're somewhat new in the fuel cell space, but fuel cells are really our product. I mentioned that our core technology, Eflow, manages the flow of gases more efficiently through a fuel cell. An electrolyzer does a very similar reaction. It just runs in reverse, effectively. So you've got the same interaction of gases and the same resulting inefficiencies. And so we believed that if we put our Eflow technology into a PEM electrolyzer, that we should see some benefits from that as well. And so we actually partnered with a German company, Fraunhofer, and for the last year or so, we've been running tests using our Eflow technology in various configurations, and we were very pleased to announce about 4 weeks ago that the first parts of that test had completed, and Eflow does deliver benefit, efficiency benefit, hydrogen production benefit in electrolyzers. So we're very excited about that development, and we're looking to move on to the next stage.
That's a really good point to wrap it up.
Okay.
A really promising outlook for everyone who wants to learn more about Loop Energy. You have a technical session in the afternoon at 5 o'clock.
That's right.
So, and for all the people that can't wait for so long, you can meet Ben and his company at booth D55 and continue the discussion there. So, once again, thank you really much for being here and giving us some insights.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.